Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 112 of the Watch Rolling Podcast. The Watch Rolling Podcast is a veteran-owned podcast that focuses on horology while sharing valuable resources with the watch enthusiast community. My name is Jason. I'm your host. If you're new to the pod, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Episode 112 is a fantastic interview with the supremely talented fine artist and graphic designer, Sophie Scott Lewis. You may know her from Sophie Scott Lewis Art on Instagram or her YouTube channel or her webpage. This is a great conversation with someone who has a cool intersection of art, watches, and automobiles. We discuss a little bit of everything from her inspiration, how she got into watches, how her art and everything blended, and then what she uses for inspiration and workflow, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a great conversation. I invite anyone that's interested in blending your worlds of something you're talented at with watches to strongly consider and listen to Sophie, because she's made some good headway in that. She's worked with some wonderful people, to include BBC, Sir Paul McCartney, just to name a few, on top of tons of other awesome watch brands that we all know. But again, I don't want to bury the lead. I'd rather you hear about it from Sophie herself, who does a great job explaining it. So without further ado, episode 112, interview with Sophie Scott Lewis. Let's get into it. Hello, Sophie, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, no problem. The pleasure. Oh yeah, pleasure's all mine. It's nice to have someone on with such a cool background, which I'm sure everybody heard about in the introduction. But I know that you have a busy family life and stuff, so I want to get straight to the point with this because I like to value my guest time. So, but I always forget to watch wrist checks. So let's just get into the wrist checks real quick. I'll go first. I was let the ghosts go second so they could talk about their watch, but I'm wearing my 16570 Polar dial on the OEM bracelet.
Amazing. That is an amazing piece, Jason. I'm very jealous. Very jealous.
Well, maybe it'll be a Lend-Lease program one day and we'll loan it out. We'll let it travel the world. As long as it comes back, I'm okay with it. But no, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's just, I went Polar dial because for my eyes, the Polar dial appears a little bit larger than the black dial. And with my larger wrist, I felt like it just balanced it perfectly size-wise on my wrist. It's not too big. It's not too small.
Yeah, it's got lovely contrast, that dial. And I love that it's got the orange second hand. Is that right?
This one's got the red.
Nice.
Yeah. Very this nice. Is from year 2000. I like the newer orange hand ones, but I wanted to, and I had handled a bunch of them before, the 216570 and the 22 and all that stuff. But I thought, okay, let me get in on the older model first. And if I really dig that, then I'll bump up in size, because this is the 40 millimeter where the newer ones are 42. So yeah, but no, they're all beautiful. That orange though, it's something a little whimsical about that orange, right? It's nice. I like it. But what do you have on your wrist?
Well, I've got two things. I've got my Waltham pocket watch, which isn't on the wrist, which I wear it at weekends. I don't know why I wear it at weekends. I don't wear it in the week because when I'm drawing, it hits the desk and it's going to get battered. So I picked this one up at a thrift store.
Wow.
Not a thrift store. Would you call it a thrift store? I don't know. I mean, that's an American term, but it's like a antiques kind of store. And I've wanted a pocket watch for so long.
Beautiful.
This one was just the perfect size. Yeah. And the dial is like such a crisp white with the black numerals. Yeah. I love it so much.
It is very nice.
Actually, I didn't realize this until I bought it, but you can see the movement as well, which is beautifully decorated. I don't know whether you can see that.
Look at that. That is.
And it's working perfectly as well. I've not had to get it serviced or anything like that yet. It's just, I don't know how old it is.
Yeah.
Decades and decades, I'm sure.
Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I have a buddy of mine named Patrick. He runs a channel called Pocket Watch Time. Yes. And he's like a pocket watch, connoisseur. And, so I think if you ever wanted any information, you could probably reach out to him, and Patrick would probably spout off all the specs and where it was made and everything.
I would love that because I don't know anything about it. I know it's a Waltham. I don't know. I've looked online to see if I can find out about the piece, but nothing's there. Like, there are versions of it decorated differently, and I don't know whether that means it's the same one or whether there's differences to the movement or not. See, I would love to hear about that. Maybe you can give me his name again at the end or something, and I can have a look.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, after the show's over, I'll just shoot you I'll share his Instagram profile with you. And Patrick's a good dude. He's solid.
Yeah.
And like when I say he knows about pocket watches, like this guy knows about pocket watches. Mm-hmm. Watches in general, but pocket watches especially.
Yeah, and it's rare to find people into pocket watches. I mean, I think they are having a resurgence, but there aren't many collectors out there of pocket watches. Certainly in the field that that I work in, people seem to be wristwatch centric, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess that leads me on to my wristwatch, and that's my Cartier Santos de Cartier, which is the medium. And I'm kind of gutted actually, because I love this piece. It was a piece that I wanted for ages, but they've got a smaller version out now, which I think would fit my wrist better. So I don't know whether to sell this and try and get one of those, or who knows? Who knows? Yeah,
It looks great on your wrist though. I mean,
yeah,
when you held it up there, I think it
yeah,
looks like it looks great.
it's just it's. I think I particularly love the simplicity of the white dials that I go for. I mean, this is kind of like a silvery dial, but it's very close to white,
Yeah.
and I
No,
like.
I know what you mean. I have a Seiko mod a buddy of mine, Joe, made me in I designed it and he built it for me, and it has a silver Seiko dial. And when I finally got my camera upgraded, I was able to actually capture the silver of the dial. It always looked white. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's a great white dial," and I was like, "No, it's silver," you know. But then finally, in the camera, with the camera, I could capture it. But I know what you mean. I appreciate the high contrast. Like, but I wear glasses for readers, but when I'm walking around, I don't wear them. So any white dial, if it's done right, I can look down. I'm like, okay, I know what time it is. You know, I know what you mean. But that's a beautiful. That's a the Santos has always been like, if I was going to go Cartier, it would be, because there's like a nice industrial element to it, but really refined, like really finished. Like you can look at it and tell it's a machine, but in the coolest, like artsy fartsy way, if that's the best way to put it. Like,
Yeah, no,
it's
absolutely.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's got like a brutalist kind of appearance to it. It feels really robust and really masculine. I love masculine watches. So it's got that kind of masculine aesthetic, but you can wear it with everything. It's truly a Garda watch. You can wear it with anything, I think. I mean, I've worn this out to dinner. I've worn it to weddings. I've worn it with my sports kit on and quickly changed it because I realized if I scratch it really badly, then I'm not going to want it. Yeah, you can wear it with everything. It's absolutely so adaptable and versatile.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah. What's the thickness on it?
It's not that thick at all. I don't know what
Because
the actual thickness is.
it looks like cuff, like cuff thick, you know? Yeah. That's,
Yeah, that would slip under a shirt cuff for sure. Yeah,
and
it's really.
their quick disconnect on the bracelets are awesome.
Yes. Although it came with a calf leather strap, which I absolutely love, but I've had real trouble with it because it's its smallest size and it still doesn't fit. It sort of the strap sort of runs back around and meets the back of the case, so it's just too big. So I need to, I don't know, somehow get that professionally adjusted, I think, or just find something else. But it's lovely to have it because it's the Cartier original one that came with it. It's
Yeah, my wife has the same problem. She has really small wrists. She has like a 6 and like a quarter. And so a lot of straps, they make them too big for her wrists. So it sucks because my wife has like a really cool watch collection. She's not like super into it like us, but she knows her stuff, and it really stinks for her because she's like, yeah, the strap's too long, you know? And it's like, so a lot of times she wears everything on bracelet, and that can even be an issue because sometimes there's stuff I've sized for her where I'm like, babe, this is the last link I could take out. At this point, I don't know what to tell you, you know? And thankfully, most of them are there. So if anyone's listening, you know, you should have small bracelet options and strap options for people with smaller wrists.
Yeah, and there are more and more women coming into the industry anyway, aren't there? And more female collectors every day. So I think it would be a really wise move for brands to start listening to that and creating, you know, a smaller option, or even bracelets that go smaller, you know.
Yeah, just like small, medium, and large, and just put the measurements down and people can pick. I think that's pretty cool because there's nothing more disappointing than you get a new watch and you got to wait to get it sized, you know, because I have I've had surgery on my hand, and so like pin and collar ones are kind of a pain for me. So whenever I get like screws, I'm like, yes, screws, I can take care of this real quick. But pin and collar and some of the traditional push pins or the cotter pin ones are kind of difficult. I usually just take them to a local watchmaker and, you know, spend $10 and get them taken care of so I don't drop anything in my office, which I'll never find again. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So Sophie, we're not here to talk about the nuances of bracelet systems, but we are here to talk about you, your artwork, and how it intersects the watch world. Because I really, you know, I used to draw a lot when I was young, and I feel like I got a pretty good eye for this stuff. And there's a certain element of the realism of your artwork with some whimsy I've noticed when I look really close, which I appreciate. I think it's pretty cool. And so let's just get straight into it. So like your studio life and your recent work, I like to go with the hits first, right? So over the past year, like what's been the most personally fulfilling studio project you've done?
I think there's two that really stick out to me. The first one was not personal project, but a private commission for the global head of watches for Sotheby's, Jeff Hess. He is the organizer for the Manhattan Rolly Fest. And I contacted him about an exhibition that I was organizing and am still organizing, actually. He was really kind with his time. And after that, a few weeks later, I think he'd shown his wife my work, which was an honor to hear about. And his wife contacted me and said that Jeff's going to have a birthday soon, a really big one, and I want him to have something really special. So I would love for you to draw his Hermes. I can never remember the name of it. It's an art dial and it's got beautiful hot air balloons. It's got a sort of surreal bird hot air balloon in the middle with tiny figures. It's the most beautiful watch I think I've ever seen. It's stunning. It really is. So when she said, would you like to draw that for him? I jumped at the chance. It was such an honor to do it for such a knowledgeable person as well in the industry. So that was truly a sort of standout moment this year for me. And then I have to mention the British Watchmakers Day Isotope dial designs that I did for Isotope, which I absolutely love doing. He's such an incredible guy and really put his trust into me. I mean, he didn't know much about me at all because I'd only really just started out. And he basically let me run with the designs myself. He said, it needs to incorporate the Union flag. I want this to be red, white, and blue for British watchmakers, and sort of go with what you think, and we can go from there. And he trusted me the whole way, and there were no changes. It was an incredible project to be a part of, and then to work with, because there was two. There was a cloisonné dial, which is like a glassy material, and then micromarquetry, tiny straws. And there's an artist in France, truly incredible artist called Bernardo D'Ore, who has worked with the likes of Patek and Louis Vuitton, and he was the person going to bring my designs to life on the dial. So that was a true honor to work with him on that. Yeah. So yeah, Isotope. And I think I'll always have a special place for Isotope as well, because they were the first big brand I worked with in watches. Because I mean, I've worked with brands in the past. I was an art director working with brands on marketing pieces. For fine art, it was Jose. So yeah, it was a really lovely moment. That was kind of this time last year.
Yeah, Chris, I have a buddy of mine, Chris at Poppin' Crowns. He's a fellow Red Bar co-founder, just a good friend. But Chris loves Isotope, raves about him, and just talks about how kind of an organization they are. And they really do some interesting stuff. And it's funny because it's kind of like the dichotomy of our friendship. Like Chris is like, we both appreciate serious like watches, quote unquote, but where we kind of veer, there's areas where we veer. But I've been watching Isotope. It'd be fun to have a piece from them, but I'd like to get to be around the brand a little bit more first and kind of get that real feeling. But yeah, that dial that you designed is pretty freaking sweet. I dug it. I was like, man, I wish I was British. I'd get a freaking watch, you know what I mean? But I'm not. But it's just really cool. And yeah, so when it comes to that kind of stuff, when there's like different materials and textures, and how, explain that process. Like, is it something that you think about what you're going to use initially first, or you come up with just the real art design first, and then whatever textures play out later, you play out with it? Because you talk about collaborating with that gentleman who does the dial work itself. So if you mind explaining that process, that'd be great.
So with that particular project, the materials were chosen before I sort of entered the project. They were the ones that had locked in. So I had to really adapt to those pieces. So with micromarquetry, the straws are straight. Obviously, they can't be bent. You can create circular motifs with them and designs, but you have to cut from small to large and small again to do it. So I wanted to pay homage to the materials in the design that I did, where it's a liquid material. I wanted it to be sort of free flowing and fluid, I suppose. And that's why the flag on the cloisonné dial is that way. The micromarquetry, because it's got the straight straws, that had a bearing on how I thought I would design the piece, because I wanted to, pay homage to the material itself and not go crazy with something totally different, but something that would be fitting for the material as well as Jose's brief. So, but it's really interesting that you said you're friends with Chris, because it's such a small world, this watch industry. I mean, I saw Chris at the Isotope stand at British Watchmakers. That's when I first met him. So yeah, it's really, really random. It's a really tiny world.
Oh yeah, and the whole story behind me and Chris meeting is even like more random. I mean, I went to the 20-second synopsis is I went to a watch show in Atlanta, Intersect Atlanta. Someone introduced me to him and was like, "Hey, it'd be good if you guys met." Because I didn't know another watch enthusiast out here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and Chris lives down the road. And so we met for lunch one day, hit it off, and then ever since then, we just hung out. We've gone to watch meetups together and stuff. And then one day we were like, hey, there's not a Red Bar chapter between Washington D.C. and Raleigh, and so we put the plan together. We went and talked to the Red Bar, and they greenlit us, and it was pretty cool because like now we have a good core. We have about 50 members, but we have a good core of about 20, plus or minus 5 that make it to almost all of our events and stuff. And so we have a nice little schedule we keep and a wide range of watch enthusiasts, and it's been fun. It's been really fun. But yeah, I mean, it's just you just randomly meet people, and then you're like, it's like 1 degree of separation. It's like better than Kevin Bacon's like 6 degrees of separation.
It truly is. It's madness how you can meet somebody at a Red Bar event and they know somebody that you spoke to yesterday. It's crazy. It's such a small world, but
Yeah,
it's growing all the time, isn't it? I mean, there are so many people coming into the watch industry, so many micro brands starting. It's a really exciting time for watches. I'm really excited, especially British micro brands at the moment. I think it's absolutely exploded in the last couple of years. So it's really, really exciting.
yeah, it definitely is. It's funny too because I'll at work I'm kind of known as the watch guy now. So like people have all kinds of questions, or I'm thinking about buying my boyfriend a watch or whatever. Can you help me out? And I'm like, well, so I actually have like an email drafted up now where it's like if someone asks me a question, I'm like, hey, here's some stuff I think you should do, and then we'll talk on Monday. Like, kind of take a look at what's lying around for this person, and here's a couple of good channels that do a good job of showing watches at certain price points. Like, pay attention to what they're showing, and see if anything aligns with the person or yourself. And then we'll go from there. Because I'd feel bad if you spent money and you didn't really love something because you didn't do a little bit of homework first. But yeah, it's crazy because I meet people all the time that are into watches that they're like, really? There's enthusiast groups? I'm like, oh yeah, like you can join ours for free. It's great. And they're like, I never thought that I'd ever be able to talk to anybody about this stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm like,
It's
no,
amazing.
once a month you can get together and just run your mouth about it, and it's perfectly fine, So
And you could talk
yeah,
for hours, absolutely hours about it, can't you? It's
yeah.
truly, truly unique.
And I think that's a cool thing about having guests like you on is because, with your background, it's like I tell everybody all the time, like, look, you got to join these groups because like I get a free education every time I talk to a guest with a different background, right? And it sparks interest in me, and I'll go down the road and find different things, and it makes me a more well informed watch enthusiast, and for me, it makes me be less critical of stuff in general in the hobby, right? It reinforces the fact that this is a hobby for me, and there's a million different things to appreciate about this hobby, even if I don't necessarily dig something. I don't necessarily feel the need to tell someone I don't dig it. It's like, no, I understand. I can understand where it's that person's jam, and if it makes them happy, it makes them happy. So it's that's the best part for me. That's the juice. The juice and the squeeze is just the people in the hobby and what I get to glean from them, because it's like it's awesome. Like how many times do you get to sit down and talk to a fine artist, graphic designer, like about the thing you love, like for free. I get to do this for free. It's freaking
Yeah.
sweet. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
So in your blog, I read some stuff about a special watch from your childhood, a gold plastic watch, and then a watch from Brazil. So I'd like to know how, and I'd like my audience to know, how did those early experiences, because I didn't have early experiences in watches. I mean, the only one I can remember is I saw the watch in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the Piaget Polo, and I thought that was a cool watch, but not enough to go find it. So how did those watches from your early youth shape your artistic vision now?
I don't know whether they did shape it, I guess. I mean, do you know what I found the other day? I was looking because it was a gold plastic watch that I had when I was 8. My parents bought for me, and I have discussed it in interviews before, and I've discussed it at watch meets, and nobody I know can tell me anything about it. And I just searched online. I put in loads of details, and it turns out it was a Swatch. It was a Swatch refrain musicale that played a musical chime. And so I almost bought that the other day. I don't think that has really informed my artwork as such. I think it must have done to a degree. Like I've mentioned before that I'm into quite masculine aesthetic watches. And that was the case with my watch journey to date. I suppose if you look at it the other way around, I think my artworks informed my choices now, because as time's gone on, certainly in the last year, I found myself moving more towards more elegant pieces and looking more towards the tiny details like guilloche dials,
Yeah.
the brushed cases, the polishing on the lugs. Whereas before, when I was buying and looking at more masculine watches, like dive watches, and I suppose starting off with fashion watches, they don't always have those details included. And if they do, it tends to be done predominantly by machine at a mass scale. So looking at, more delicate pieces like Piaget and Cartier, you get this new appreciation, I guess, of the finer details. And I think that's what's really spurred me on to truly refine my craft in the artwork that I do and really pay attention to the details rather than missing those details out. And I suppose that's what kind of has evolved my artwork, my personal work that I did before I became a professional artist. That's what's kept it ticking along, getting better and more detailed and more intricate, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And it's interesting because it's like some of the things that I love and why I basically have my collection down to 2 pieces, because there are a lot of details in this Explorer 2, but like my Grand Seiko, I've noticed a lot of people have opinions of Grand Seiko until they actually handle them and look at them, and then especially look at them under a loupe. And it's like, yeah, man, like my 231, people rave, like, I cannot believe the dial is the exact same black as the bezel. I'm like, oh no, it is. It's pretty snazzy, right? And to me, that's part of it. So I think that's pretty cool. It's the little influences we pick up here and there, because I didn't really have any. So for me, it's just been kind of like I've had to compress my time with figuring out what it is I like and what it is I appreciate. But you talk about, real quick, having personal art projects. And I like to give value back to my audience. So there's probably a lot of people who have a jam they're really cool, they're serious about, they consider turning it into a business. But I know that can be a big leap, right? Because you open yourself up to stuff like, criticism or critical, constructive, hopefully it's constructive criticism, to people not buying your stuff. So can you shed a little light on that jump? Like when you took because I also have listened to some stuff and you're also big into motoring, like cars. So these are 2 like highly opinionated areas, watches and cars. Like everyone's got their own opinion on it. But what was it like taking the leap from it being personal projects to actually attempting to get paid for this stuff?
It's quite nerve-wracking, really. I've worked I was an art director and creative director for a marketing company before, so I was working with big brands beforehand. So I had that experience of working with professional people, working with them at brands. Being able to talk to brands was fine. You always, I suppose, as an artist, have this imposter syndrome where you think, is my work good enough? There are other people doing this. Is my work as good as theirs? And so that was the tricky hurdle to get over, and that was something that I've just had to work at and just create and create and create. Because the more art, it's like a muscle. If you don't use it, then you lose it. So you have to draw every day. You have to make sure that you're putting in the hours and really working at it. It's like anything that you want to become good at. You've got to spend the time doing it. And it was actually my father-in-law that saw my artwork. I was drawing a Lang & Söhne Zeitwerk because I could never afford that piece, and I wanted to draw it to have it on my wall. And he saw it and he said, well, he worked quite high up in marketing and sales at BT. He was the manager of sales and marketing. And he said, you should absolutely contact brands about this. This is something that they would absolutely use. And that was kind of the driving force to make the jump. I was comfortable in my previous job. I'd worked there 13 years and I loved the job. But I had always wanted to be a full-time artist. And I guess you don't get that opportunity very often. And with my kids now starting school, I had a bit more time on my hands to do things. So yeah, I made the leap and thank God I did. It's really paid off. I mean, I feel like I've hit the ground running with it. I contacted a few brands. I tend to contact brands that I really love and appreciate and feel that I can help or assist with what it is they're doing. Yeah, when brands contact me, I really feel like it's paid off. I really feel like what I've done is worth it, if you see what I mean.
Oh no, yeah, I agree, and I think there's a cool intersection there too, because you talk about cars or watches, right? Like I think people often forget there's a whole initial stage where people are sketching these things. Cars, for example, they're just sitting down on the sketchboard and figuring out like hey, what do I want this thing to look like, right? And I'm sure they do the same thing with. I've seen it before where they do it with watches, right? And they sketch it out, and then eventually you start to move to the technical phase. Like, okay, so what would fit in there? What could we use? What could we afford? Initially, it starts out as just some idea someone has with a sketch pad, and it's cool enough to where people are like, oh, it's pretty sweet. And I totally understand what you say about doing the work, right? I've read a book. It's a book. I think the gentleman's name was Stephen Pressfield, where he talks about honoring the muse, and you honor the muse by actually sitting down and doing the work, right? And all the people I know that actually do stuff like this, or whether it's like my buddy Chris with his writing, he does that. He goes and he writes, whether he wants to or not, whether he feels like it or not, right? He does the work. And I think that's the best thing about art is that I don't know, my personal opinion is totally subjective, right? Like there's going to be people that don't like someone's art. There's going to be people that love people's art. And all you got to do is just keep pumping it out until you find the right people that love your stuff, right? Because not everything's for everyone. And it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty impressive that you actually were like, you know what, let's do this, and let's commit myself. And because your stuff's, yeah, you know what I mean. Like I looked at a couple of your drawings, and I was like, I probably wouldn't need the watch if I had just had that picture of the watch. That'd be good enough for me. It'd probably save me. It'd probably save me $15,000 in the long run. You know what I mean? I had this nice piece of artwork, and I'd be able to help out a local artist, or not a local artist, but an independent artist, which I feel is pretty important.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so when you do all your artwork, right? Is it strictly like, maybe I'm missing something, but like sketching, pen and ink, or do you go into other mediums, and then do you have a different mindset based on the style you're doing or the subject?
I certainly go into drawing watches and cars differently. Watches are, to me, because they're such intricate pieces, they're so detailed. So I take far longer in the planning phase. I'm looking at the distance between the lugs, the layout of the dial design. But with a car, it's a bit more forgiving, and you can rely quite heavily on the shine and the gloss to hold the attention. So yeah, I think that's there is definitely a difference. I do just work predominantly in graphite. So I started off with ink, and it is a wonderful material to use. But if you go wrong, there's absolutely no way back with ink. It stains the canvas, and that's it. You can't take it off. With graphite, it's a little bit more forgiving. I mean, it originally started before I started with ink. I was working digitally at the previous job I was at, creating illustrations digitally, and that's great because you can just control Z and undo everything. So I like the balance of, you're playing a little bit with fire, but you can still try and rein it back if there are any sort of big mistakes. Luckily, I haven't had any mistakes with the commissions that I've had so far with watches. But there are areas you want to kind of lift the graphite back off, and sometimes you've laid it on a bit too densely, so that's harder to do. But yeah, watches definitely take a different mindset. You have to, if I find my attention waning, I have to get a coffee, walk around a bit with a watch, and come back to it. And I don't find myself having to do that so much with cars.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's like I take pictures of certain things, and sometimes there's things I want to show movement, but sometimes I've always heard and I've read some stuff where like landscapes are the most difficult thing to pull off first. If you can pull landscapes off, then you can do a bunch of other stuff. And so that's what I try to do is I try to capture movement without blur. And then since I have kind of like I have 47 megapixels, I want to capture little details. So if someone wants to zoom in, they can. And which is totally different than if I went and like photograph like a car race or something. I'd probably want to like, have everything set up to where I can catch a little bit of blur and, cause that's how people see it. So no, that's pretty interesting. So when you render these timepieces, like when you draw them, cause I love pencil stuff, man. And I think it's the coolest thing because I just like what I grew up with. But do you feel like you're drawing a literal object, or is it like a portrait of the object, or is it something like a line that blurs between the two of them?
I think with cars and with watches, it feels like they have their own personality. And people call their cars names, don't they? And I've heard some people call watches names. So there's definitely an element of it being a portrait. I also approach the portrait differently depending on the kind of personality that watch has. So if I'm going to draw a Cartier Santos that's quite masculine in its appearance, I might draw it straight on and proudly. Whereas if it's something that's, I don't know, got softer edges like a Cartier Crash, for example, and I might draw that in a more quirky way. I might play with the perspective and the angle of the watch. I think that's really important to be able to do as an artist, is adapt the way that you draw things depending on what you're drawing and the history of it as well. So yeah, there's definitely a difference in drawing that to drawing, I don't know, maybe a vase of flowers, because I don't have that connection with a vase of flowers. I'm not, I don't enjoy flowers particularly, but having that connection with watches, and also my connection with the piece that I'm drawing. If I have a connection with it, and I've handled a piece, or I've got a story that goes with it, I almost try and convey that in the piece through the movement of my hands. There's definitely like a softness when I'm drawing something that I know well compared to something that I don't perhaps know so well. I feel like my hands are moving in a different way. It sounds quite odd, but it's these subtleties that make the portrait unique and not, and not like a carbon copy of something else you might buy in a shop.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. And this like kind of leads into my next question. So the collaborations with watch brands or any other brand, right, or limited distributions with like, working with the brand, do you feel like that saps some of your creative like flow where you can just kind of like go the way you want to go? Or is it easy to have those conversations with the brand where you're like, hey, I want like full creative control of what I'm going to do for you, kind of thing?
Well, so far I have had control creatively. I mean, the piece that I've just done for a new British brand called Mazai Watch Company, Sandor, the founder, said, take the watch and just do what you think. I trust you. And it's such a lovely feeling to have that freedom coming from the job that I had before, where there's, set guidelines. You have a brand guidelines to adhere to. The colors that you use, the style that you use, the fonts you use, everything's got to be just so, especially with the bigger brands like Warner Brothers and BBC. You've got a definite kind of wireframe you've got to fit your work within. But with watch brands, so far, I haven't had anybody say, I want it like this. It's got to be like this. There's always been that conversation. And I think I wouldn't be hired for the artwork if they didn't trust my opinion as well. Yeah, it's a really unique situation that I've never experienced before in digital artwork. People tend to feel more free to let me do what I do.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think because I think people that create stuff, I think they understand that everybody sees their creation differently. I mean, it's the only way it's the only way I've ever been able to put it together. It's like, there's different little details. Like you're talking about cars, right? Motorsports and stuff. So I recently acquired one of the cars in my dreams, right?
Amazing.
Yeah, I had Google Alert set up for it. It's a Volvo. You guys would call it an estate car, but it's a Volvo V60, and it's a wagon, right? And I had Google Alerts set up for it, and one of them popped up, and it had like the right amount of mileage I was looking for, et cetera, et cetera. So I went and checked it out. One owner, perfect maintenance history, beautiful, beautiful example of it. And so I actually dropped my car payment, and I actually everything went down, but I got the car of my dreams. And at first, my wife was like, "I don't really get it," but then after riding in it, and the comfort and all this other stuff, and she's like, "Oh, I get it now." For you, I'm like, "Oh yeah." And I said, for me, it's just everything that's inside is great. I love that and I respect it, but it's the lines. It's just and I found like this really, it was like a blue color that you had to pay for. It was only done in Germany, but it was like stock in Germany, but you had to pay for it in the States. And I'm like, that thing in the sun in an overcast sky, like it's just, beautiful. So I know what you mean. It's just, but not everybody sees stuff the same way. Some people are like, yeah, whatever, it's a wagon. Like this guy's like, movie Vacation. I'm like, well, it's my vacation and it's my wagon, so I love it. But yeah, everybody sees things differently. So
they're so comfortable, Volvos. They really are. I love a Volvo.
Yes.
And I've had some very uncomfortable cars in my time. When I was 8 months pregnant, and I was driving around in a Jeep Wrangler, and the thing just jumped up and down on the road. It was just horrendous. So I had to get rid of it. But yeah, Volvos are very comfortable cars. So yeah.
Oh yeah, it has this. Jeeps are cool. Like out here, a lot of people have Jeeps. I think because it's so humid. Like the second the temperature goes over like 70, Like you see all these people, the doors are off, the tops are off, they're flip flops or whatever. But I'll tell you what, the best thing about the Volvo I noticed that I didn't know about before is the seats got a thigh extension. So
Okay.
I'm like 6'2", right? So to be able to push that thigh extension out to where I have more seat under my thigh, road trips are the best. I mean, I could always drive all day, but like I can really drive all day now because it's like my legs are supported. It's great. Yeah. The little things. And they got
It
little
is the little
Swedish
things.
flags on the seats. There's little Swedish flags on the
Yeah.
seats. It's really funny.
Oh, the
But
Swedish know how to do design, I think. I
oh
love
yeah,
Swedish design. I've not long come back from Sweden, actually. I was at a wedding in Sweden, and
nice.
yeah, the design out there is just, they've got everything down perfectly. Oversized lights, really lovely, comfortable chairs. Everything's just perfect. I love it. Yeah, so
Nice.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it's a yeah, shout out to Swedes. Make a great car.
Yeah.
So, have you noticed a difference between like who buys your art? Are they watch enthusiasts or collectors in art? And if so, have you noticed a difference between like the reaction or responses to your
It's a bit of a mixture, really. It tends to be watch enthusiasts and brands that I work with predominantly. When you see somebody who's not into watches view my art, they have an appreciation of it. They think, oh, wow, that does look lifelike. And then it kind of stops there. They'll look at it for a few minutes and then they'll move on. Whereas if you are showing a watch enthusiast, there's more to it than that, isn't there? And also an art enthusiast. So an art enthusiast might look at the curves, the lines, the representation of value of light and dark, and appreciate that. And then you've got the watch enthusiast who may appreciate that, but will also appreciate the really fine details like the signature, the Cartier signature on the 7 numeral. And so there's different conversations that you can have with different people who view your art. It's certainly a longer conversation with a watch enthusiast because the item shown, the subject of the piece is something that they're passionate about quite often, especially drawing things like the Cartier Santos and the MB&F Legacy machine.
yeah
So the sort of well-known pieces that I've drawn.
yeah that little I'm gonna put the link in the I'm gonna put all the links excuse me all the links in the show notes, but I'm definitely gonna put a link to that YouTube short of the MB&F Legacy thing because there's just little details in there that are so cool. I'm like, oh man, I keep going on and on. The little dude with the balloons is freaking fantastic. It was like, okay, that's pretty sweet. But yeah, and I've noticed that too because even with like watches, when you go to a watch meetup or something, I'm always surprised by the little things that different people pick up on with the watch, and sometimes they pick up on something with mine. Like I was like, oh, I've been wearing this thing for like a year and I didn't even notice that. Like oh, that makes But then when they say it, it's pretty cool. All right, so I gotta ask, like process, routine, and reflection, right? So, what does a typical studio day look like these days for you? Now that you're like in the mix and you're doing work.
It always starts quite hectically because I'm getting children out for nursery and school. But then there's like a sense of calm, and I go for a walk and I just kind of get myself ready for the day. And yeah, there's lots of list making, to do lists that start the day and emails to answer. And then finally, I get around kind of mid morning to the actual artwork itself. And I can spend, 5 or 6 hours just with one piece immersed in it. And you get this kind of mindful feeling when you're working. And I feel truly blessed that I get to do something that makes me feel so peaceful because working in companies previously, I mean, worked at a photography studio, I've worked at an illustration studio. It's so fast paced, it's manic. But when you're working by yourself with just yourself as company, you've got this kind of this calm and this energy that you don't have working with people, and it means that you can truly focus on the task in hand. I think someone told me once when I was working in the previous place that if you get interrupted by somebody, it takes you 7 to 11 minutes to get back into the flow of working. And you don't get that at home. You do get a little bit lonely. There's obviously times when you get lonely, and social media is great for that. But I am able to entirely sort of immerse myself in the artwork, and that's a really lovely feeling to be able to do that.
Yeah, that 7 to 11 minutes is hilarious because when I go back to
Yeah,
work on Monday, I'm gonna be like, hey man, you're costing me 7 to 11 minutes of my life here.
yeah,
I'm not gonna get
yeah.
back. That's awesome. So it kind of sounds like you have a routine or a ritual for
Mhm.
your workday. So do you feel that gets you into the proper mind state to be creative?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely couldn't do without my morning walk and my morning coffee. Every day I make myself proper coffee and I have a walk. Without that, I feel kind of fidgety and there's too much energy going on in me. It's like a kid when you let a kid run around in a field and they come back, they're far more easy to talk to than they are before that. So I don't know. I do have a lot of energy, and I think sometimes going out and getting that out before I start, because you almost have to breathe out when you're drawing these really intricate pieces.
Yeah.
You know, you need the breath out of your body sometimes in order to make a few of these really detailed marks. So if you've got that energy, pent up energy within you, and you haven't let go of that, it makes it much harder to draw. So it's a really important part of my day. Yeah, I don't meditate and I don't do yoga, but I think that's the next step maybe.
Yeah. No, they
To
say it
keep the
helps. And there's a
calm.
lot of cool things that people do where I'm retired Navy, but like, firing a weapon, they tell you like when you pull the trigger, you should exhale. Like when you lift weights, your press, whatever the actual push part or pull part is, you should breathe out. Right. So there is something to that, it can help. Like, I know when I used to draw, I used to like to draw down more than up. Going up always made me feel like I was doing something weird, but yeah, no, that's pretty cool. And, so I think this is something I've found to be pretty true for myself. Like, when do you know something's done and it's time to walk away? Because I think a
I
lot of
don't
people have a problem with this. They can't just say,
Yeah.
okay, I'm done. So for you as an artist, like, do you know when that point is?
I don't think anybody truly knows when something's finished, because you could carry on and it would still be fine. But there are moments in my past where I've drawn and I've gone just too far. And it's a really fine line between good and bad. And I've come up against that quite a lot. I don't do that now because I'm always err on the side of caution and think I'm going to leave it there. Even if I could go further, I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to, I don't want to make a mistake. So there's definitely a balance to be achieved. Yeah. With design, you've got the sort of luxury of being able to add and take away and it not causing much of a problem. But with graphite, like I've mentioned before, lifting graphite off the paper, especially if it's laid on quite thick, and with the dark areas, you have to. That's really hard to then undo. I walk sensitively and sort of gingerly when I'm trying to complete a piece. It kind of slows down towards the end, I think. So at the start, I might start quite slowly. In the middle, I might speed up because I know what I'm doing. And then at the end, where I don't really know where the ending is, I slow down and walk kind of really carefully until that point I think is achieved.
Nice. Yeah, I know that sometimes I'm like, man, and it's like, I'm done. I'm done taking pictures for the day. I'm gonna chalk it up there. So, in the watch community, there's like a sneaky little everyday carry side, like an EDC side. So what would be some like EDC tools or techniques that you feel are essential to you as a fine artist? If anyone listening is an artist, like things that you have that you're like, oh, I've had this thing for like 20 years and I have extra ones in case I lose it or something.
I've got a wooden ruler that my mum left me when she's still with us. She's not died or
Yeah.
anything, but it was her 15 centimeter ruler from
Wow.
school that I still have, that's got her name etched in. I don't have it close to hand, otherwise I'd show you. So I still use that. But everything else has kind of grown over time. I have the biggest box. I'm trying to see if I can get it for you. I can't. No, because my laptop's leaning against it. But I have a huge box full of pencils. And you wouldn't believe how quickly you can go through pencils when you're keeping them sharp the whole time. Something that I recently picked up as well is a professional grade sharpener. It is the best thing I've ever bought, because sharpening by hand or with knives is really difficult to do, and it's so messy that I found myself having to wash my hands because I had graphite all over my hands, and that's like the worst thing that you can do when you're drawing in graphite, is to have it all over your hands because it just smudges everywhere. This sharpener is, I mean, it creates mini daggers out of the pencils. They are
Wow.
so sharp. And then also, I think, like in my arsenal of tools, having a range of erasers, because I think people quite often think, you're a graphite artist, you have pencils and you have a rubber, and that's pretty much it. And I suppose to a degree that is my toolkit, but I have lots of pencils of different grades and I have lots of erasers. So I've got a mechanical eraser, which actually has a battery in it, and you press a button and it goes super fast
Wow.
to lift graphite off. So it's like something that you'd find in a tool shop. And then you've got a really fine, delicate rubber that's really pointy. It's a Tombow mono eraser that I use to lift up tiny, tiny details. I know other hyper-realistic artists use it for representing hair. So finding the really tiny shines on hairs. And then I use putty rubbers and also the sort of standard rubbers that you would buy from any stationers. So there's a huge amount of basic equipment that I use. I mean, you would call it basic because I'm only using pencils and rubbers and sharpeners. I don't use anything else. I know other artists use, white paint and stuff to pick out the light and dark, but I try and do all of that with the pencils themselves. I try and make sure that I'm just using graphite, so everything on the sheet is represented in graphite. I do have dark graphite, which is almost like a black crayon, but it is graphite, and it's like a super dark pencil. So you can very quickly achieve darker shadows with those. But I don't like to use them too much because I think you can tell that there's a difference between the graphite and the dark graphite. So I try and layer the graphite on in layers just to make it as dark as possible. Awesome. You can see that in the piece I did for Brew Watches. Do you know Brew Watches? They're an American brand. So their metric has got in black and white has got a dark dial. So I had to layer that on and on and on until I'd created this matte black finish, but without the shine. I often get a sort of kind of shiny appearance with graphite. In fact, I had somebody on Instagram message me the other day about how I achieve the artwork that I do without having shine. But I mean, all of the artwork will have shine in it. It's really difficult to get rid of that shine. And I think there's like a charm to that shine. But to minimize it, you layer the graphite on slowly rather than going at it really hard and trying to get that darkness achieved very quickly. It's difficult to do.
Yeah. Well, no, and you can, achieve some undulation in color too by, how much you're actually putting on, et cetera, et cetera. So first thing, my wife's a second grade teacher, so she would really appreciate this like super high pro pencil sharpener. So I'll make sure that she knows about that because she's always like, no, a really good pencil sharpener, really, but they still have like the old school ones where you like twist it or whatever.
It is that. It's a twisty one. It's one that you put the pencil in and you twist it. Yeah, you could get I'll send you a photo afterwards, but it's brilliant. You can get the finest points with it.
I'll put the picture in the show notes and everybody can check out an awesome pencil sharpener because it really does matter. I mean, I listen, I used to sketch a lot when I was a kid, and I had to use one of the little plastic ones where and I knew I'm like, this thing doesn't get anywhere near. So I used to take my stuff to school and sharpen them when the teacher wasn't looking and take them home and try to keep them all safe. So like as pointy as possible, And then the other part is like the pencil thing's crazy. Like I'll tell people, like, if you haven't ever looked up like buying a set of pencils, cause it's like, there's like there's like G, H or something like that. There's like F, there's like letters and number designations for different, hardnesses. And there's a whole, if you're a watch person and you don't want to go down a rabbit hole, I would highly advise you not to go down the pencil rabbit hole. Or the ink pen rabbit hole because they're pretty crazy.
I'm getting into ink pens as well now.
Yeah.
So it's watches, it's cars, and it's ink pens. I'm a typical man. I mean, there are a typical male watch enthusiast tends to like the cars and the pens. I've noticed, but very few females do. So I think I'm an anomaly there.
Yeah. Well, it just means we're all dudes. That's all it means. All of us, we all share the same things. For me, right now it's just cameras and my watches and then locations. Cause I'm trying to find locations that I can go take pictures, places that inspire, cause it sounds funny, but like I was talking to my wife about it the other day and it's like, I explained to her, I'm like, no, that's how I've always looked at the world. Like I will walk. I think people think it's funny. Cause like I'll walk off to the side because I want to see this particular thing at this particular angle. And I've been that way since I was a kid, like I'll go seek out beautiful things to look at. And, without a camera, I'm just locking it in my brain, but I have the kind of memory where I can go back to that time and be like, yeah, I remember what that looked like. And so now with a good camera, it's like, I can capture these things. And selfishly, it's for me. Like, if people don't like my photography, if they do, whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, I have that visual memory, but I know the older I get, cause I'm in my 50s, like the older I get, it's like, I'm going to need some pictures of this stuff in order to remember these things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's pretty cool. But so
I saw your artwork the other day. It's your photography is stunning. I studied photography at university, and it's stunning, really stunning.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah, really
thank you so
nice.
much. I'm reading books to kind of figure out like I've done a little bit, like the Fibonacci and stuff like that. So now I just like imagine there's a seashell and everything I take a picture at, and like, where do I want the middle of the seashell to be, right? And it's like, or whatever. But no, I really appreciate it. Thank you. It's been fun, and it's I mean, like I said, I wake up early anyway, so I might as well go out and take some pictures, right? And then like yesterday, I learned a valuable lesson that if you're going from like your house and you live somewhere humid, you might want to give your camera 20 minutes to acclimate to the heat because your lens could fog up. So I was like, I'm like, well, let my lens unfog, before I take some pictures, because the first 10 photographs looked like I was in a fog storm or something,
Yeah, yeah,
But no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and it's been fun to. That would be the jam eventually for someone to like my photography enough to want to pay me to capture, because that's the thing is I just see things the way I see them, and I like to be able to capture that the best I can. So, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
yeah.
So,
That's
so
stunning.
connecting with this watch community, right? The whole watch enthusiast community. Like you said, it's smaller, but it's getting bigger, right? How is sharing your process and then your artwork online, has it made you more confident or shifted the direction you want to take as an artist?
I think when I started out showing my artwork online, I was really quite nervous about it. I didn't show my face. I didn't even like showing my hands. It was all just to do with the artwork. And I think the community is so welcoming and so warm that you do feel comfortable to start showing your face and to start talking on camera and to start doing interviews and things like that. That's a really special thing that you don't often find online, because there's quite often, trolling that goes on. And luckily, I haven't had any of that. Um, Everybody's been so welcoming, and I feel more able to share not just everything about my art, but more about me and my personal life as well. And I think that's a really nice thing to do, and that you don't often find. Yeah, for sure. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, yes. The short answer is yes. And like you just telling me that you appreciated my photography is going to carry me for like weeks, because I get it from my family and friends, and like my wife. I totally know if I was a crap photographer, my wife would find a very kind way to be like, "Hey babe, maybe you should try this other hobby," right? Like, but it's nice to hear because it's part of you, right? This you probably feel a compulsion to create these. You were going to draw something, right? Either way, right? And there's this weird esoteric connection between what you see and what your hand pumps out, right? And you know, I'm a firm believer there's right brain and left brain people. Like there's people that are super analytical. Like there's people who absolutely love the watch specs and could care less about the design. Like my best example is like whenever you see TGV and Mark from Long Island when they have a show together, like TGV's all into the history and all this, like some of the design elements, and could give a crap about the specs. And Mark could give a crap about the history and the design elements. He likes blue watches and he likes how that movement operates and blah, 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 right? They couldn't be any more different than that, but they respect each other's stuff. So for me, it's like, I'm happy. It makes me happy that the people I've ran across appreciate my points of view on watches and what I find to be important, because I know I have a unique, like most people, a unique opinion on them and what attracts me to them and what's not. So putting my photography out there was kind of a big thing, because it's like, I'm not really taking pictures of watches, like I like nature. I like sharing cool places with people. I'm kind of a creature of habit though, too. Like I like to go revisit the same place over and over if I find peace with it, because I see different things every single time. And I'll give a little nugget. Like there's a Madonna and Child statue at the Norfolk Botanical Gardens, and I've probably taken 50 pictures of that thing at different angles, and at different times, because whoever put that there, I can't find anything, but whoever put that there, I know that they went there in the morning, in the afternoon, noontime, afternoon, in the evening, because the light hits that thing differently. And the way the trees are set up, it always almost has light on it, but in a different direction based on, the time of the year. And that's the way I
It
see it
becomes
every
something
time.
totally different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
and it's this, we're not here for statues, but it's this stark white statue in the middle of these various tones of green and sometimes yellow. Like I can't wait till fall and all that stuff turns like orange and reddish and yellow because I want to get that picture of that statue there too. But yeah, it's been that's a really long-winded answer for it. I apologize for
Have you tried putting your tripod in exactly the same, making a mark on the floor and putting your tripod in exactly the same place throughout the year and getting that shot at different points
no, but I
and
will
then
now
making a, yeah,
because I don't use a
it's interesting.
tripod, but I have one.
Yeah.
All my stuff's hand shot. No, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, mark where your, how high your tripod is and exactly make it exactly the same. And you've got, a triptych or a quad of these photographs throughout the year, and it would make a nice piece. It's interesting what you say about having this compulsion to create, though. My family think I'm crazy. None of them are artistic. And they will sit on the sofa at night and they will watch telly. And I cannot do that. I need to, there's like a visceral feeling inside me that I need to create something. And if I don't, I get sad. It's like a, if I don't do it, then I'm not who I am. It's
Yeah.
there's definitely I think you can tell when you're an artist or an artist of sorts that when you have that feeling that you need to get it out. That's a way of expression.
Yeah. No, it really is. It's interesting because like I'm a simple dude. And so like exercise for me has been a thing since I was young, right? Like I've always wanted to, I played sports when I was young. I've always wanted to physically exert myself. And like I joke around, but it's like, if I don't kick my own butt 3 to 4 times a week, there's a real change in me. Right. And it's not a good change. I need to do that because I know I can do it and I feel the need to do that. But at the same time, it comes down to, like you said, like I can't just like sit down and watch TV unless I'm learning something. Like I'm a big YouTube guy. Like I love YouTube because I can learn a lot, right? And then you vet your sources, and some of them are good, some of them are not so good. But like I know what you mean. Like if I couldn't do something creative, like I used to like during COVID, I got into painting Warhammer figurines.
Yes,
I
I
had a
did that.
whole setup. Like I have a whole Instagram out there still about my 40K guys. Shout out to that crew. I kind of got out of it because I realized how much money I was spending. But
They're expensive, aren't they?
oh my
Really
gosh,
expensive.
yeah, I had 4,000 points for. I know it's not a Warhammer podcast, but 4,000 points of a Blood Angel army. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
yeah, and I eventually gifted them. But my point is like I had to do something, right, creative, and that filled that void there. But like for me, photography will just be much easier to go scratch that itch. And it makes me get up and walk. It makes me get outside. Like there's, other little elements there that are pretty cool that I appreciate. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like I think sometimes like people are like, really, you get up at 5:30 in the morning to go take pictures? I'm like, yeah, man, I got to be there when the sun gets up. The sun gets up at like 6. I got to be there. Like, you know, and everyone else can sleep in. I don't really, that's not my jam, but if it is your jam, more power to you, but not for me.
Absolutely.
So Sophie, looking ahead, is there anything you're super excited to pursue? And if so, what is it?
I have a couple of projects coming up, which I can't talk about, but they are. So one is with a brand that I have loved for years, a Swiss brand, and the other is for a British micro brand. Again, I love working with micro brands, especially when they're relatively new and starting out, and assisting them with telling their brand story through art is wonderful. I mean, I know there are a huge amount of watch photographers out there, yourself being one of them. There isn't much representation with art, I suppose. It's a different form of art, but with like graphite or painting of watches. There's a few, but there's a huge amount more of photography. So it's nice to have. It would be nice to continue to fill that niche, I suppose, in the future. I've mentioned this before on podcasts. I would love to collaborate with a brand on a pocket watch, but a more modern pocket watch. You see a lot of well, not a lot. You see a few women wearing pocket watches as pendants, like I do. I don't feel like they are being brought into the 21st century. They're kind of stuck in the past. There aren't many modern iterations of it. So I think my dream project for the future would be to either design it myself or work with the brand on something that is modern but pays homage to the traditional methods of watchmaking. That would be really, really cool to do, and something
Yeah.
that I'm excited about if it
Yes.
happens.
No, that'd be awesome, especially from the mechanical side, because I think that would be a drive to help push some of, to continue to grow watchmaking, because there's a big, everything you hear is a big shortage of watchmakers, maybe that would get some young people into it so we can have a whole generation of watchmakers. And, because I think that would be a big thing is for some of the stuff to be not so stuffy, because sometimes some of the watchmaking stuff is kind of stuffy. And I think that turns off young people because it stifles their creativity, right? I understand like certain things got to be certain ways, but there should be some freedom of expression and some other stuff to where you continue to grow and evolve the art. Because I think that watchmaking is an art as well. Well, that's awesome. Well, Sophie, I always give everybody an opportunity. Do you have any last nuggets? Is there anything you want to plug or anything on there that you'd like to leave everybody with?
Gosh, I don't think I do, you know. I mean, if you're starting out in the art industry, I would give a piece of advice is to always trust your instincts. Make the change and go for it. I think so many people in my position a couple of years ago would be too scared to do it. And that was me for a long, long time. I've wanted to work for myself for a long time, doing various things in the art sphere. And I just thought, if you're in the position financially to do it, because life is short. You don't know what's around the corner, and if you've got the energy and the passion to make it work, then you will do. And yeah, that would be my advice to them. In terms of watches, though, I don't think I have any advice for watch. I think there are lots of people out there that know far more about watches than I do. So yeah, I'm gonna cut myself off there.
Well, Sophie, it was an honor having you on. And like most of my guests, there's always an open invitation back if you ever want to come back on. Love to have another chat again. And I think it's important what you said about the artwork. If you feel it, you gotta follow it, and you should figure out where it takes you, because I think that sometimes we should be surprised about where it takes us once we stop. If you sit down for 5 seconds and realize like where you've kind of gotten, just all of us in general, it could be a pretty special place.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sophie,
Thank
for
you
having
so
you
much for
on.
having me.
Well, no, anytime. Open invitation. It was an honor. I mean, it's great, and you're just adding some more awesomeness to the great group of guests I've had on before. And like I said, open invitation back again anytime you want to.
Thank you. Thank you
Well,
so much. I've had a
nope.
great time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks again,
Thanks, Jake.
Sophie. At any time. And remember, everyone, at watchrolling.com, you make the watch. The watch doesn't make you.